excited to introduce today's speaker, my good friend Jonathan Burg, who is Senior Vice President of Revenue at New Breed. And if you're not familiar with New Breed, they are a HubSpot Elite partner, and I believe the only 3-time winner of the Partner of the Year award. They've also been incredible friends and supporters of the Boston HubSpot user group for years and years now. They've spoken, they've promoted our events, have attended our events, and we always appreciate that support. So our presentation today, Jonathan is going to be sharing some of the findings in the State of HubSpot report, which is a report that they've been doing for 2 years now, and I hope they keep doing it for the next decade. It's one of my favorite reads every year. It's an annual research report that New Breed produces that uncovers the trends shaping the HubSpot ecosystem, and he's going to share some of those findings. So Jonathan, let me pass it over to you.
All right, thank you. Great tee up. And one of the things that I think would be interesting is during this session, y'all should sort of like tag like, hey, let's go deeper here, or right, because I think that's going to give the Boston Hub community, like there's some things that perhaps Tony, Sean, y'all want to like dive deeper into, and we can sort of set up how we can get that done. But thank y'all for having me. Really grateful to be here. In the past, I would say the past 2.5 months since we published the report, I've been able to speak with CEO of Pavilion, Jill Rowley, Chief Evangelist of sort of the Nearbound movement, Broke Book, CRO of Teamwork.com, has done amazing things with HubSpot and the ecosystem. Scott Brinker runs the app and app partnership and technology ecosystem and is the author of the MarTech report. Carrie Cunningham, ex-Serious Decisions Forrester researcher and thought leader at Sixth Sense, and a few others, George B., et cetera. So we've got a lot of, I've actually learned more through this than anything. So grateful for the report. So today, I'm going to curate all of those insights that I had over the past 2.5 months and try to work through as much of those things with you all today. So it's kind of like a culmination of me learning through doing podcasts and interviews and having conversations with folks. So a little bit of the agenda, the way this is going to flow, we're going to talk about today's challenges, right? What we're all facing. We're going to talk about how those challenges are really opportunities and some key things that we can do with our technology and HubSpot in order to really bring that to life. Okay, so I honestly, like, kicking off the call just around like every single week, we have new technology capabilities across the entire customer platform. And not just there, but across all of the tools that we're utilizing. I also are going to dig into some data around how buying behavior and experiences are evolving, and how that's sort of impacting all of our go-to-market and how it's underpinned really by artificial intelligence, right? So I'm experiencing this every single day. Tony, Sean, everybody on the wire, I'm sure y'all are experiencing something very similar every single day as well. And it sort of led to a question. I asked this question, is Inbound dead, in front of, I think we had something like 1,500 people join the session at Inbound. I'm not sure if anybody on the call was at it. Now, we had the panel, who was some of the folks that I mentioned earlier. We had the panel obviously highlight that, no, Inbound's probably thriving more than ever before. So we asked people what their secondary and their primary go-to-market motion is. And, we had a distribution across account-based growth, customer-led growth. I know you had a deep dive on account-based ABM a little while ago. I joined that one, great session, sales-led growth, et cetera. And Inbound was the most common associated with each one of these primary. So in fact, it was just as prominent, but not necessarily the primary. It was associated with each, which kind of would expect to find, right? And 96% of organizations said that HubSpot is effective in supporting their go-to-market strategy across all of these different combinations. All right, so this is that go-to-market shift that I was highlighting, and this is some of the things that I've learned through all the conversations that I've had. is that I think what's happening here, and I'm sure some of you are sort of thinking through this during 25 planning, what does this mean, is that organizations are really trying to figure out what is their go-to-market fit in this environment. So how do your buyers, right, want to engage with your solutions? How do they want to learn? How do they want to test? How do they want to convert? And then how do they want to actually use that solution? And then how can your organization align your people, your process, your technology to support that, right? And now I could spend about a half hour on this slide and the different dynamics between annual contract value and number of deals you're going to have, and the risk between the buyer and the seller, and what that means in terms of your go-to-market fit. But I think it's critical for organizations to understand this and to make sure that you're applying the right tactics, strategies in order to deliver against this work. So when I was a couple of weeks ago, we had Carrie Cunningham, who's SiriusDecisions researcher on, and they do a ton of research around buying experiences and some really important insights that I think are going to help many people, apart from B2C and or very high volume prosumer transactions. I think the majority of organizations are going to be experiencing this and need to start thinking about how they can architect their go-to-market in a way that adapts to this buyer's journey. So one of the things that they found is that on average, there are 10 people in a buying committee. That's significantly bigger than 5 years ago. And, some organizations might have 3, some might have 15, right? But for every additional person, it's 21 days added to the sales cycle, which is crazy. But during this period of time, I don't know if y'all can see my cursor, but during this period of time, from the time research starts to the time that someone, that they reach consensus of how they want to actually buy, this is 70% of the selection process. And during that 70%, people are doing research. They might be on vendor websites. They might not be on vendor websites, but that buying committee is doing a ton of research. And the other thing that we found is that they want a personalized experience during this period of time, right? Then when they're 70% through, this is the real kicker, they will reach out to the first vendor 84% of the time. So if you're second, you're likely not going to be the winner there, right? If you're first, you have a really good idea. This is the other thing. We've got all of these tools now deployed where we can drive sequences, we can enrich data. So what does this mean from a HubSpot perspective, right? We can drive enrichment through AI. We can prioritize accounts that are showing first-party intent within your systems, and you can identify buyer groups within that. But here's the interesting part. If you reach out to those buyers in this 70%, you're unlikely going to force them to engage you. You can't accelerate this. You can only inform and inspire during that period of time. So what does that mean? All right, so here's a little bit of a summary of that. You can't make buyers engage with you. Groups matter. Buying groups really matter. So this notion of we're going to drive an MQL and we're just going to follow it through, right? That might be interesting if that MQL is I want to demo and learn about how I can buy your solution. But the moment you have multiple people, right? Multiple people within that organization engaging with your content, that's where magic happens. So how can you architect your systems and your insights to get that done? And that likely buyers have already shortlisted you and your competitors before they reach out. So what can you do in that period of time to be that first? So we found this again, that sales and marketing is really hard right now. So only 7% of revenue leaders expressed confidence in hitting their growth targets this year. And then here are some of the top challenges. So I don't know if we got the chat firing off here, but I'd love to sort of have people comment, do you resonate with these? Are these in your top challenge list? I get to talk to a lot of revenue leaders across marketing, sales, operations, customer success, not as much, but I do often are with leaders. And this is pretty representative from a qualitative perspective that I see from a quantitative perspective. But if anybody's got any comments on that in the chat, please drop. Or if you want to sort of drop what your number one challenge is too on this list, love to hear. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through first the keeping up with the changing landscape of technology and integrating AI into our process in a meaningful way. We kind of hit on two a little bit, but we're going to get back to that one. So Scott Brinker was with me last week, and he talked about this MarTech law, right? So what he's seeing from his research and also just the app ecosystem in HubSpot is that the rate of change of technology is exponential. When he cites the numbers of just the number of AI apps that have been launched in the marketplace, we're talking like thousands in the last year, right? So that rate of change is exceptional, but the rate of change of organizations is not. We're pretty slow to keep up. So how can you manage this? Because it's impossible. Like, you can't keep up with it. There's no way. We can keep up with it. In fact, we found that organizations that the majority of organizations, 40% of companies, only 40% of companies say they use and maximize the features of HubSpot. And everybody else says that they don't. And the reason they don't is because there's too many, they're not educated, and they don't have the knowledge, right? So you can't keep up. But what you can do is you can create some flexibility. So some recommendations from Scott and his research was really to create a very open modular approach to your marketing automation platform, your CRM, your tools, for easy integration. So that's something that they're investing in. And I think we've all felt that the ability to integrate and drive customization and leverage some of those APIs is definitely an area that allows us to overcome this challenge. And to make sure you're investing in an agile process. So how can you help your teams to test and learn? And can you create a more agile operations, marketing, and sales organization? Training and enablement is absolutely key. Year over year, we find that the organizations who outperform their peers prioritize and invest in training, particularly when they're implementing new tools. We found that data point in relation to implementation of hubs, but this goes for any tech implementation. And then finally, strategic choice. So I believe that the people who told us that they are maximizing the features of HubSpot, I believe it is the ones that matter for them. It is the strategic choice they're making, right? So providing your team with guardrails of where to experiment, where we should be implementing new tools and training against it, significantly helps your ability to overcome this rate of change and be smart about it. And I think that all lends itself to organizational culture, right? Do you have a culture for this where it's rather we have to do this because it's a shiny object, or a fear of failure? Like, if I do this and it doesn't work, maybe that's not good, right? So how can you create the organizational structure in order to overcome those challenges? All right. Tony, Sean, anybody, any questions, any thoughts, anything on there that's surprising around that, or anything you want to reinforce before I keep rolling? All right, and we're good. There we go. Keep it going. Okay, so tied up there, like I showed you before, right? The number one challenge is integrating AI into business process. So we also found that of the top performing companies, they believe HubSpot is supporting them well, and that this was the number one investment by far, was how to integrate AI into your business processes, and is 10% higher than the next largest investment. Now, the next largest investment I'm super stoked about, so I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. So I'm not going to say it now, so people gotta stick around and learn. But It's a massive investment. So like, it's crazy. We're investing in it, but we're challenged in how to do it really, really well. So we had the fortunate ability to learn a little bit. Like, okay, well, how do the best do it, right? There's the in platform AI capability. So all of the Breeze capabilities that were delivered, and a consistent enhancement in how that can be used. So when we have customers and I talk to revenue leaders, they're like, yeah, we're trying to increase productivity here, there, and they start rattling off all the things that they can do. Thinking through your full customer lifecycle and thinking through how your teams are getting work done today, I highly recommend taking the time, whether that's through Hug, whether that's through reviewing research within the HubSpot university and academy, whether it's reaching out to a solutions partner, whatever it might be, understand the power and the capabilities within HubSpot and apply those to the jobs to be done within your organization. Now, the other thing that Scott highlighted was HubSpot recognizes they don't want to be, they can't solve every single use case. It's impossible, right? Like, they need app partners to drive extensions of the tool. So you might have a use case, or you might need a tool that delivers much more deep than what HubSpot's delivering through the Breeze capabilities. And that's where that integrated approach and going and creating that strategic focus and then finding tools to implement in to support you can really help. We've got some examples of that. I'm not going to show those today because this is really meant to sort of research and then guide areas of deeper dives, but experimenting with standalone tools. And then here's the outcomes, right? So there's two ways that you can think about integrating AI into your business. So as you're planning for 25, there's let's just be more productive, right? Let's be more efficient. Let's save time and resources. Maybe we don't need to hire 5 more SDRs or MDRs or BDRs or whatever you call it. Maybe what we can do is we could actually transition our current BDR managers to be more of prompt engineers and drive really strong productivity through some of the tools and capabilities in HubSpot and beyond, right? Or how are we just going to do things completely different? How are we going to innovate, right? How are we going to flip this whole thing on its head? How are we going to use AI to deliver our services differently? Are there new services? Are there new products? Are there new things that we can bring to market through AI and additional technology? So sort of bucketing it into those two key areas is also something to really force yourself to think of. And this really helped me compartmentalize and create structure and a framework for planning around how we can integrate AI into our processes. All right, so here's what the research says. So last year, when we asked people, what are you looking for from AI? Content creation was number 1 by far. It was like, boom, way up at the top. And then productivity was way high too. So coming back here, right, what to do better was that's where everybody was going. Now it's data analysis and insights and content quality. Fascinating, right? That sort of shows that we're leaning towards number 2 a bit as an ecosystem, which I'm super excited about. And I'm really excited and also eager to see what we're going to see from Breeze and within platform to really help us do that. And I'm sure there's a ton of use cases that Tony and Sean and others on the call can highlight around how we're utilizing Breeze to gain those insights and drive content quality. I think we could probably have a hug literally on each one of these exact topics right now. I'd say raise your hand if you would want to have a hug literally just on this slide alone and how to do some of these things. Give Tony and team some ideas there. Okay. All right, so that's the AI. Now you can't talk about AI without managing data. So this is all around data management. The number 1 reason, so HubSpot has outcomes that they work to align their hubs for individuals to achieve. So Marketing Hub, automate marketing, drive more leads. Sales Hub, create more opportunities and accelerate deals. Operations Hub, manage data, activate data, etc. Right? Success Hub, retain customers, scale, retention. So you can see. So we listed out. We asked all HubSpot users, why do you invest in HubSpot? And the number one reason was to manage data. And I think that's a really, really powerful insight. And I also think it's so applicable and important for today, particularly because if your data is not ready for AI, you can't take advantage of the things that we just talked about. You have to have a data structure and an approach in order to achieve strong integration of AI into your processes, just like any other type of automation. And we also found last year that companies that outperformed, so they had their highest growth, they achieved their revenue targets and their lowest CAC, were 60% more likely to have Operations Hub in their environment as well. So if you don't have Operations Hub in your environment and you want to integrate AI and you have any level of complexity and managing data is critical to you, something to take into consideration. All right. So here's some musts, right? Data has to be clean. It has to be standardized. It's got to be consistent. You have to minimize duplications. You need to make sure you get rid of all the missing data. Data has to be integrated, right? So it's got to be integrated across your systems, and making sure that you centralize. And that's one of the things that I actually love and am motivated by our ecosystem, is that we are working with tools and technologies that allow us to genuinely create one unified customer platform, and that allows for productivity and insights across that customer lifecycle. So I think HubSpot is the most well-suited to help organizations accomplish that. And then finally, it's got to be purposeful. So going all the way back up to that go-to-market that I talked about, and the shifting in go-to-market, when you think about your data structures, how is your data structured and architected in a way that's going to support that go-to-market best, right? Like if you're all the way on the prosumer and B2C side, you are going to architect your data and the things that you measure and the metrics that matter differently than if you're taking a very small target account approach to very large deal sizes. All right. And then some must-haves. So Olivia Parrott-Clark, she teaches in the university. She's been in the ecosystem for over 10 years. I'm so grateful that I get to work with her day in and day out and solve customer challenges together. But I sort of asked her, I was like, what are some, like, give me some key things in HubSpot that help with this, that, you know, if we know this is the number one thing, like, talk to me, apart from Operations Hub, which I just highlighted, in addition to Operations Hub, like, talk to me. So she really highlighted the data quality command center in order to identify issues and make sure you've got consistency. She highlighted data sync, right, to really effectively activate all of your data your organization collects and have as an integration of systems is absolutely key. And also it allows for, and it is flexible enough to create custom field mapping to ensure that data that's unique to your business is shared with all of the right people and platforms. And then she also highlighted object hierarchy and cross-object association. So, you know, in HubSpot, how can you apply data model templates that kind of automatically creates objects and properties and pipelines and associations relevant to your industry and your go-to-market as well. So those are some of the big things that she highlighted and flagged as critical in order to accomplish these three data musts. So since data was so big, I'm gonna I want to double click one more, right? So I got to present with Google at Inbound on how to structure your first party data strategy to really take advantage of the Google AI and some of the capabilities that they're building against and hoping organizations really in. As I was preparing for it, I took a step back and I thought, all right, like what can somebody who's leading operations or is a leader at the organization do to sort of help get that done? So one is organizational commitment and alignment. If you're in your 25 planning process and talking about your data structure and investing that a program or a big rock for next year, if that hasn't come up, I highly recommend making that something that you talk about. And by naming this as an initiative, you're going to get the resources and the time and the space in order to get it done. And you're going to be able to do it faster than if you're just chipping away at it and complaining week over week, month over month. You got to audit. You got to do a deep audit of your current state. What is the quality? What is the collection process? And then really define what does good look like, right? So, what is the customer related information that you need and in a way that supports your business's goals? So really define what that looks like and then build a blueprint. And my recommendation is, regardless of whether your data is like absolutely solid and you believe it's bulletproof, I would audit in the lens of how you want to deliver against AI and productivity in your organization. And I am sure you're going to identify opportunities in order to get that done. Okay. Tony, Sean, interrupt me at all if you want me to either slow down or answer any questions. I realize I'm cranking here.
I think this is really great, and I think this most recent section was particularly fascinating. It seems like there's this like shift from HubSpot being a marketing automation platform to a CRM to now like this other thing that I don't think we really have a great name for yet, but it's really all about your customer data, and that's huge.
Yes.
Go ahead. It sounds like you got something to say.
Tony, that's the question is Inbound dead? No, of course it's not dead. Like, come on, like that's a mindset and a methodology that is like, that is thriving more than ever before. You call it ABX, call it PLG, call it whatever you want. Like, you need to deliver great, inspiring content that's going to, enable your prospects, your customer community, people to engage with you. But like, this is bigger, right? Like, this is like what HubSpot is evolving into is a platform that provides us with the AI-based tools to really activate against the way that customers want to connect with our brands, going all the way back to the icebreaker. And that's like a big headline of what all of this data is highlighting.
And I think there's the obvious thing of like, all right, if I have good data, clean data, then I can understand what marketing is working. But I think that it gets more sophisticated from there. And as HubSpot is injecting more and more AI into the platform, you can use it for like the generative AI aspect, but all of the insights that AI can pull out for you are only going to be as good as the data is clean. And I think that is a really exciting prospect as well.
Yeah, like whenever somebody comes, like whenever I have a conversation with somebody, like, yeah, are you going to really invest in AI to do X, Y, Z, right? Associated with I always ask the question. I was like, okay, like, what data do you need in order to get that done? And then they start thinking about it and they're like, oh yeah, we got to do that. We definitely got to clean that up first in order to get that done. So it's critical. And then the meta is, how can you actually utilize AI-based tools within and outside the platform to actually do that? Love it. Thank you. Anything else that you want to sort of call out or hit on or reinforce or dive deeper into before I keep cranking?
Yeah, no, I think go ahead and keep cranking. I don't see any questions in the chat. Looks like people are excited about what you've got to say so far.
All right, cool. All right, so I talked about this. It's usage. The best use the platform, period, the end. So here's some thoughts on how to actually drive more usage. So the use of workspaces, right? So one example is leveraging the prospecting, which likely is going to be evolving into a sales workspace. Help desk, customer success, right? To centralize users to what they really need to focus on in terms of tasks, object types, and the actions that they need to take in order to get their job done, right? I'm not sure how much y'all have talked about Supered and technology like that, but and even HubSpot's got some great in-app enablement tools that provides additional context to users and prompts and information regarding how processes work or just what to do in HubSpot to support those processes. I think one really great example of that is deal management. We've worked with some customers and ourselves that have really helped drive usage of certain deal management areas that we know are going to help to increase the deal score, which ultimately is going to increase to more conversions through the funnel. And then find champions within the organization, empower users who can lead the way. I think that's one that hopefully most people on this call are embracing and or have been for a very long time. And then of course, partner and hug and HubSpot led training as well. That's very specific and deep and can be objective as well, right? I think that's important. All right. So when I was on the webinar, when I was on the panel discussion and at Inbound, we talked about metrics and the metrics that matter. And another really big finding from the HubSpot ecosystem, this sort of transcends the technology a bit, is around durable growth. So we found this year over last year, organizations were much more focused on metrics around net revenue retention, profitability, and complemented by new business revenue growth, but not overshadowed by. And then when you combine this with the second highest investment, I promised everybody I would say what the second highest investment was for revenue leaders, it was customer marketing. It highlights the fact that I think organizations are really starting to think through, this is not just we're not just we're using HubSpot for marketing automation and new business. And secondly, we as an organization, you can't just grow at all costs. We need to be aligned around what's going to create durable growth into the future. And when I saw the second highest investment was customer marketing, and we also saw a lot of investment this year into Service Hub as well. I think those two things combined highlight the point that you made earlier, Tony, is that customers in HubSpot and our whole ecosystem is thinking differently rather than just marketing automation and a growth platform. This is my customer platform that's going to allow me to create durable growth across the whole customer life cycle. And if you're not thinking like that, or you're interacting with people who are not thinking like that, I recommend sort of using some of this research and helping to shift that focus. The other really big finding that we found was around alignment. So 60% of organizations, only 60% of organizations feel aligned around their metrics. But the top performers, so people that remember that 7%, only 7% were confident. So the 7% and people who are growing the fastest, they were 100% confident that they were aligned across the metrics that matter for them. Now, when I say alignment, what I don't mean is consensus, right? I mean, having the hard conversations around that go-to-market alignment, having the hard conversations around how our data needs to be structured, having the right conversations around what are the tools and technologies and how are we going to help and deliver those things that help people get their jobs done, right? And then how are we going to measure that effectively? Those aren't easy things to create alignment around, and everybody can't just say yes. You got to really commit to what you're getting done. And the other thing that we found was that everybody highlighted across sales, customer success, revenue operations, all said that profitability, new business revenue growth, sales opportunity creation, net revenue retention were like the most important metrics for their company. And marketing ranked MQLs as number one, right? So we're at a period of time where we need to rethink a little bit around that single person coming in, filling out a form, right? We need to rethink a little bit how we actually define MQL and drive alignment across the organization, et cetera. This could be an hour session right here on how you do that from a strategy, a process, and an actual sort of implementation perspective, but this is absolutely critical. So, I think it goes all the way back full circle to some of the research I presented earlier, is that what we're finding is that multiple people, right, that account scoring model in a way to identify active buying groups using not just first party data, but first party, second party. Didn't really talk about partner ecosystems in this, but we have data on that, as well as third party data to really identify who are the accounts and how can you prioritize your outreach in order to really engage your buying committee and your buying groups, and not being distracted and or potentially wasting time and resources to engage with noise in a way. So the good news, right? So we're all here. We're all at the hug session, and we're all learning and engaging with a platform. So you're in a great spot, right? Because those who invest in HubSpot said that they were 10% more likely to be fully aligned on metrics, and they also, people who implemented a hub in the past 12 months said that they improved customer acquisition, retention, and productivity as well. And we also found that a lot of people are looking to make a change. So we also had a certain percentage, it's about 30% of participants. We had 1,600 plus participants. We had a certain slice that were not on HubSpot. So we were able to do some interesting comparing and contrasting. But we asked that population if they're considering any hub and in what time frame. And many people are planning and or interested in making that migration. And we see some of that through some of the growth that we're experiencing in the ecosystem as well. So to kind of summarize the whole thing up, and we can go to Q&A, is, right, maximize usage, laser focused on the customer and durable growth. Partners can really help play a role, but even not formally solution partners, right? Like your trusted colleagues in the Boston area and the hugs are coming to sessions like these, working hard to find that go-to-market fit, structuring your systems and your data to that, and then being really smart, really purposeful about your data and tech investments as well, and not just chasing the shiny object, but getting most of the tools that you already have in your environment in a purposeful way. And then if you need more, right, identify what you need more of, and then go find that app extension within the app ecosystem that's purpose built for you. So there you go. That's the wrap up right there.